Mr. Gunn, I'm sorry this is a love letter to you. You deserve it, though. Great job.
I'm hoping the answer to this question is yes. Have you seen...
Push down on it.
What?
Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3?
I have.
Push it down.
I am pushing down on it.
And we're about to talk about it.
Push the button.
Yes. I feel a butt coming.
It looks like you're pushing the keyhole.
The what?
The butt is I want to get this thing out of the way.
There's a button under the handle. Press that in.
Okay.
Okay.
For our listeners at home, I love comics. I don't know.
Now what?
Open the door.
Have I kept that a good secret this whole time? Have I been real subtle?
That is a stupid design. And your instructions were very unclear.
I love comics, and every now and then, in reading old stuff, some of which, I've never, I don't reread stuff that I've read before. I just fill my shelves with it, but sometimes I come across something like, I never actually read this, and it was a Thor collection. Every now and then, I'll read something that is so stupid and so awesome at the same time. It reminds me of how much I love comics in general, and this is a shout out, and I want you may not know this character at all, but insert him dancing across the screen or something in this video, or do something where you show him. You need to research, Google By Beast. Do you know By Beast?
By Beast?
He's a Marvel bad guy. It's BI-Beast.
Oh, I was thinking BU, like some kind of weird mascot for Best Buy.
That's funny. And I was thinking the other way you could go is like, he's like By Beast. He's like, see ya. BY, gotta go. And BI does not mean that he likes the fellas and the gals.
I can't tell you what I'm thinking right now.
But By Beast is so ludicrous. And there was a Thor comic from the 80s. I had forgotten that he existed. I probably knew him from official handbook of the Marvel Universe back in the day. But this is a Thor comic from the 80s, and comics are insane. The story is his origin isn't in this comic because he's been around for a while by the time I read this comic. A race of bird people, highly advanced bird people in a city that floated above the earth, and we never knew they were there. They know they're dying, and so they're dying out. So they make this android creature that will have all of their knowledge. This is similar to what the Kree did with the Supreme Intelligence, but I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. So they make this android. Is he a bird person? No. Okay, so he's this big orange Hulk-looking dude. 2 fingers, 2 toes. See, kind of two. But here's the best thing. He's got a big old bald head, big old bald orange head, with a second head that grows out of the top of it. And that's why he's the By Beast. He's got 2 faces, like a face up here and then a face down here, and they talk to each other. And he is so fucking stupid. And I love it. I love the weird, why would the bird people have made a big orange dude? And also one brain is like, I contain all of the cultural knowledge of our people and its history. And the other brain's like, I know how to fight.
Let's see which of us is strongest.
I know every fighting. So he's as strong as the Hulk. He's supposedly incredibly intelligent. But the visual of and the designer, I don't know who created By Beast. I should have looked that up. They didn't put any work into it. He's a big orange dude with little shorts. They didn't do any kind of costuming. He's just little shorts and then 2 heads.
I gotta look this up.
and then here's the thing. The 2 heads will talk to each other, and they call each other Skull Brother.
Hulk's strongest one there is. Not if my Skull Brother has anything to say about it.
And all I can think of is Funk Skull Brother. Check it out now.
Skull Brother. Right about now. Skull Brother.
Right about now. That's By Beast.
Is that?
Yeah, head on top of the head.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I know, that's the only version. And I kept thinking, please bring him into the MCU. Please make it Jack Black and Kyle Gass as the voices of the By Beast. Check it out now, Funk Skull
Brother. That's hilarious.
And don't worry, Thor and Iron Man were able to wipe him out. But I was reading that, and it just brought all the love of comics back into my heart, which is never far away, because it's batshit. It's bizarre, and someone just like, I don't know, I came up with this guy called By Beast, and they're like, yeah, whatever, man.
If they did, the way things are going, I mean, they
could.
I mean, James Gunn basically set the tone for anything to happen in the universe. Now that that was his parting, well, not his parting gift. That was his
parting gift.
That was his arrival gift, or whatever.
Lifetime supply of rice-a-roni. The San Francisco treat. Well, that was an excellent segue, and it actually is kind of why I brought it up first, is there's a thing about deep diving into the obscurities of comics, whether it's Marvel or DC. It's not about proving how much of a nerd you are. It's like, I know all about this or that, but it's just where it's like reaching across the void and going, I know where you got that from, and that's great. And James Gunn clearly has been storing this in his brain, like, we have. And you sit there and you go, he gets it. He's still going to do his take. He's still going to mess around a little bit. I'm sitting there going like, wow, Adam Warlock, Daddy did you wrong. But Guardians 3. Oh, another shout out, by the way, to our listener and friend Kate, who is the reason I got to see it.
Oh, really?
Kate is my first sponsor. Like as in she loves the podcast. She heard me, I guess she didn't tell you this, but no. In the last podcast I had mentioned like, yeah, I'd want to see some of these movies, but money's tight, work and so forth. And she was like going, I love the podcast. Would you accept a donation? So she Venmo'd me a little bit. She goes, I said, I get to go see Guardians now. And she goes, great. I want to hear you guys talk about it. So
that's
Kate,
fantastic. Thank you, Kate.
Kate, big old heart swelling. Thank you. And that's not a medical condition. That's me saying.
Yeah, good. Just to be clear.
I really appreciated that. That was very sweet. And I kept telling people, I'm a professional podcaster now. But it did allow me to go and see Guardians 3. So I owe that to Kate. And it was really good, really awesome. And as I said on Facebook, my only mini review of it was, those pixels made me cry. Because they did, man.
Yeah.
He has his thing. I still worry about what if it's project to project. We have seen him only do one thing, which is still great. He did it with Peacemaker. He does it with Guardians. And I'm like, please don't for Superman. And I'm counting on him being smart enough not to alter his style. Because his style is amazing. But what he does is he takes the ludicrous character, not the rapper, but he takes ludicrous characters and he gives them weight. He makes them, you got to take them seriously.
Yeah.
But he does the opposite. He takes the grand, big characters and he likes to take them down, mock them, make them goofy, which is what he did with Adam Warlock, which is kind of what he did with
Drax.
With Drax, because also in that Thor collection that I'm reading, which is all 80s Thor, pre-Walt Simonson run, at one point Drax and Moondragon show up in an issue of that, and I'm like going, it is so weird that this is Drax, but that's also Drax, because they're very different. Did that detract from the comics version of Drax? No. I love Bautista. I love the character he created and that they created together.
Yeah. It's a work of art, what they did with that character.
Yes, and what's weird is he does play with it, but he still kept one of the primary themes of Drax, which is the fact he was a father. Now, in the movie version, his family gets wiped out by Thanos. And that's the thing, that he wants revenge. In the comics, he's an Earthman. And his daughter, and they're all just in a car, and the daughter is abducted by aliens, and this is all tied to Thanos. She gets raised as Moondragon, so she's technically his daughter, but he gets killed. The Titan, the folks on Titan, which are all the Thanos' family, whatever, they take his soul and they give him the body of Drax, and they basically say your mission is to destroy Thanos. So in a weird way, father without his family, whose only mission, the only thing he thinks about is to kill Thanos, all of that is still there in the movie Drax version of Drax. He's just very different. That whole thing about him being completely literal minded and big doofus, man, that scene in the movie with him, and are we worried about spoilers?
No. Spoilers, people. As always.
Well, it's not a big thing, but that scene where basically Nebula unloads on him, like, you're an idiot and you just always do things wrong, and people let you get away with it because you're just big oaf and all this. And he goes, no, I am the only one who does the right thing all the time, and And then he just looks at Mantis and goes, do you think I'm stupid? And she goes, yes. And it's like, oh, but they have this bond, and yet she's like, yeah, I'm sorry, man, you're stupid. And then she goes, forget,
yeah.
Oh, man.
And you got to wonder, like, how many times has she done that to him?
Maybe so, yeah. That's what I love about James Gunn, is that, yes, I worry about the comedic slants. I still laughed my ass off throughout that movie. Great bits all over the place. The whole thing with Cosmo, like, but I'm a good dog. No, you're a bad dog. I mean, that's not even, here's this little thing. I'm like, that's great. It has a runner. It has a wrap up. Perfect writing. But I just sit there going, like, he will do big cosmic-y story. He will do grand villain. Like, he doesn't mock that villain. He gives things around him to be mocked, but the High Evolutionary is disturbing and great. But it's just character and emotional beats where you were surprised you were going to cry, or surprised you were going to get the feels so big.
I figured you would have something to say about all these aspects too, but especially Adam Warlock, because that is one of the common complaints I've heard from people before I went in, saying, "Oh man, they did Adam Warlock wrong," and I don't know anything about the character, so I didn't have anything to be disappointed about as far as
he gave
the
it
source material.
He gave it a good reason for his characterization, and it's delivered in a line of dialogue, which is basically, you took him out of the cocoon too early.
Right.
He's like an infant.
Yeah.
And so that allows him to be kind of dumb. But Jim Starlin, who created Thanos, who created Adam Warlock, was Marvel's big cosmic dude. He came up with all those, like, crazy, I'd say next to Jack Kirby, he's the most cosmic of all the creatives that ever worked for Marvel. But and he created Gamora, and obviously, but the thing is that he's like cosmic Jesus in the comics. He's very serious minded, but I did like, even in this goofy turn, they still did the whole God giving the breath of life to Adam pose between Adam Warlock and Star-Lord. It was like, oh, even there, it's like him going, no, I know where Adam Warlock's gonna go, but for now, he's this doof.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, is like, it's a little bit like my disappointment to some degree, because I still love the movie. But when he had Vigilante in Peacemaker and made him this doof, I was like, oh, well, some of us like the 80s Vigilante, who's a very serious character. He's the only DC character I know of whose comic ended with him committing suicide, and making him just like, hey, everybody, doop, 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 doop. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
But what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Did you cry? Did you cry?
I did. Yeah. At least a couple of times. And Yeah, I'm going to go jump ahead into spoilers. I'm going to be all over the
go
place
right
here.
in, go right in.
I really wanted to have a list of notes that I could run down this time, but I did not have time to do that today. But that post-credit scene where we see the new Guardians, where Rocket is the leader and Adam Warlock's on the team, and it's great. And I really hope we get to see that team. I'm kind of heartbroken that it won't be James directing it though. But this was the thing I love that you get to see a little bit more seasoned Adam Warlock in that scene. He's a little bit more confident, and he's a prog rock geek.
Yeah, that was great. Adrian Belew,
Solo, and King Crimson. I was like,
I knew that. I was
give me more of that.
Yeah,
he's a nerd. I love it.
Yeah. I kept thinking because, Adrian Belew is not necessarily cosmic-y, but it's a good choice, prog rock being something like King Crimson. I'm like, that fits Adam Warlock.
And I wish I hadn't had the spoiler on that particular detail, but I got the spoiler from none other than Adrian himself because he posted about it. Yeah, he posted about it on his Facebook. He was so excited. He's like,
"Oh, that's awesome, guys! Adam Warlock's a fan."
Yeah, he was thrilled, and he deserves that. Adrian Belew totally deserves that. So,
Adrian Belew's great. Shout out to Adrian Belew. Everyone go listen, even if it's just a compilation or something. You're gonna realize how amazing that guy is. Always has flown under the radar, weirdly. Never a top 10 hit guy. But
no, he wanted to be, but not
his
strength.
His poppiest stuff.
He has some great stuff.
Is great.
I remember the rhythm. The rhythm we made. The rhythm we made. I need to land sometime.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know if that's his slot.
Big Blue Sun is the one I would recommend from a solo work. It's an early 90s one, Big Blue Sun. Beautiful song.
We went to go see him at Rockefellers, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was so long ago.
It was when he was touring on that album, actually.
Yeah, that's why it popped in my head. I was like, that was that tour probably.
Yeah.
That was a really great show. I really liked that club too. But anyway, yes, I knew that you would pick up on that. That was great. That team, great. The whole thing is they turned one of the little kids was Phyla. She becomes the female Quasar. She's established. It's just that the version of her we know in the comics is fully grown, and this is like a preteen version of her, so she's not Quasar yet. But that's why you saw energy coming out of her hands. She's going to be a big cosmic hero.
Okay.
But so she's a cool character. I did like seeing their little hero run kind of thing, because you always love to see the group when they take off in action. You got Rocket in the front. You got Kraglin's finally mastered the arrow, so he's technically the new Yondu. It's just, I'm loving it.
So it's such a James Gunn thing that Star-Lord risks his life to save the Zune. That's the thing that almost kills him, is saving the Zune. Which he's doing for Rocket, because Rocket had kind of adopted the Zune. He was carrying it around with him. But I just thought that was great. One of my favorite moments, too, is you're talking about Drax. I think at one point Gamora refers to Mantis and Drax as Bug and Doofus.
Yeah. When they're breaking into teams. It's just in passing.
I was like, wait, did she say Bug and Doofus? That's awesome.
It is kind of the argument I always have with the DC movies, because, of course, I went with John, I went with Jerry, and another John, friend of our show. That got confusing. So John, this John. No, I only go to movies with people with J names. John, and Jerry. But they know me as the stickler guy who's going to be upset that a costume is wrong, that they change a backstory, and I am that guy, and I apologize, but it's a testament to James Gunn always that the changes he makes, I can kind of get behind. Now, true, he hasn't really tackled a character that I have a deep, so that's why I'm like, with Superman, I'm worried slightly. But he took characters that no one gave a shit about. I mean, Star-Lord, you read the early Star-Lord comics, he's not the Peter Quill that Chris Pratt is. He's deadly serious too, and has a whole superhero outfit. Instead, we get Chris Pratt in like cool leather coats and stuff. Like, oh, all right. Yondu? Oh boy, that is not Yondu. Rocket? Pretty close, except for Rocket actually was pretty blandly heroic when he first started out. He didn't get that snarky attitude or the murderous rage stuff till later. Did you read that original miniseries, by the way?
No.
Back in the 80s? One of the things that I absolutely love, besides the fact that James Gunn worked in an adaptation of We 3 into a Guardians movie, We 3 is amazing. And
we
again,
talked about that. Yeah.
Tears and tears and tears. That is such a good graphic novel. But he shoehorned in that miniseries from the 80s. Rocket Raccoon, the entire character, was just a stupid Beatles joke. The entire 4-issue miniseries was based around Rocky Raccoon. And so there's all the names in it are all taken from the songs. He has a walrus friend, which we get in this movie. So there's a walrus who's got cybernetic limbs. He's there. He's got an otter girlfriend. She's there. In the original miniseries, Rocket is searching for Gideon's Bible, which is this cosmic artifact. So, yeah, the whole miniseries is kind of a joke, and it's one of the first jobs that Mike Mignola, the amazing Mike Mignola, who went on to create Hellboy and is an amazing artist. It was one of the first Marvel jobs he did, was that miniseries, and I remember going, this guy's good. And I also remember reading it going, this is fun space adventure with animals, talking animals, but it is just an extended Beatles riff, and it's cute. It's like, oh, what if we took Beatles references? You know, I think Bungalow Bill shows. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in there. You're like, winks and nods, and okay, I get it. So the fact that they showed up in this movie is another thing where I'm like, James, God damn it, you get me, man, you get me. Yeah. Because he didn't have to, but he also said his overarching theme was about animal cruelty and the sort of embracing the importance of life in every species. I'm like, yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
And so he stole from everywhere. Obviously, he's like, yeah, I'm taking some We 3 and putting it in here.
I didn't even think about that. Obviously, I still haven't read We 3. I'd read about it, and we talked about it when we were doing the...
It's so good, and it's
about Grant Morrison a few
one
episodes ago.
thin, like, it would only have probably been if it had been in individual issues, like 2. It's a tiny little graphic novel, but it will devastate you because it's great, and it's beautifully drawn, and it's very sad. About
the Rocky Raccoon, the Beatles song connection, I was reading. James has been back on the tweets again, as he often is, and he's so fun to read his interactions there. Somebody asked, so how come you didn't? It seemed so obvious to put Rocky Raccoon into this movie. How come you didn't do that? And he just said, "It's not my favorite Beatles song." So what is your favorite? And he didn't answer that question.
And that's actually a perfectly fine answer, even though there also another answer would be money. But I think another reason would be that's so on the nose. And James Gunn tries not to be on the nose. Mm-hmm. Obviously, on Earth, the Beatles existed. Obviously, even Peter Quill probably has heard Rocky Raccoon. He's not making these connections. But it does make the question harder of like, well, come on. Rocket Raccoon? Rocky Raccoon? No one's making that... That would be something unnecessary that you'd have to introduce and explain. It's like, no, don't do that. Yeah. The very fact that he embraces the fact that he is a raccoon at the end, even that came full circle from the very first movie. I'm like, I love it. He is actually an Earth raccoon.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie gave us Counter Earth, the High Evolutionary, the Recorders. These are all Marvel cosmic things. I was very happy to see.
I could see in a future movie, which obviously won't be James Gunn directing it, but I could see like maybe Rocky Raccoon comes on for a brief second and Rocky goes, "Turn that off." Hate that song.
That would be probably something someone else could do.
Yeah, maybe a Taika Waititi.
Do you think Bradley Cooper would continue to voice him? Or is he just going to follow James over to, because everyone in this cast is
both,
like,
I would
we're
think,
going to DC now. We're going to follow James.
James has been very, almost, I mean, pretty much people have asked him that question multiple times. He always answers the question and he always says yes. Like, are there people from, actors from Guardians going to be in DC? Yes.
Yeah. The thing now is like trying to think, because he's in charge of the whole Megillah. It's like, where do you plug in Chris Pratt? Where do you plug in Pom Klementieff? Is that how you pronounce her name?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I mean, they're all amazing. They're all great. And I'm sure that even Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillan would be on board as long as they didn't have to be painted up and put under all that shit for every... And I'm just sitting there going, I don't know who they would play, but they're welcome. Come on in. The water's fine. I dug it. It swung for every kind of fence all across. The running time never once affected me because I was like, this is so much stuff. And it felt like the final chapter. Again, I don't know how much of this he had in his head when he started the first movie, but it did feel like he's closing off this thing. He's closing off this thing. Something that surprised me was the whole Mantis, because she can, read people to some degree, her going like, yeah, you keep talking about abandoning families, but you abandoned your own. You could have gone back to Earth at any time, and your grandfather's been waiting for, this whole time. I didn't see that coming, and I thought, oh, that's nice. And then at the end, when you just see him walking down a suburban street, and he's like,
that was one of the times I lost it, And
it's like, that's great. Mm-hmm. And also the idea that even though it's like, Pete? And of course, that's really touching. But I'm like, don't they know him? Didn't they establish in the Christmas special that the Guardians are known because they helped save the universe or something?
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, there are people who know who they are in the Christmas special. So it's sort of like, oh yeah, you guys.
Yeah, huh. Okay. I have to watch it again. I'm not sure.
They might not know that he is Peter Quill of Earth. They might have just like gone, he looks like us, and they call him Star-Lord. I don't know.
That was a question that James Gunn addressed on Twitter. He says, do people on Earth, on the MCU Earth, know who the Guardians are? And he said, no, they don't.
Really?
Yeah.
I might need to go back and rewatch that thing, or maybe it's something in Ms. Marvel. That's one thing, is that it may be hard to kind of keep everybody on the same, because when she went to that Avengers convention in Ms. Marvel, which was a great scene, and there's like toys and t-shirts of the characters that we know, and I'm pretty sure Guardian stuff is in there. There may have been little stuffed Groots or something. So I'm like, okay. The Earth seems to know about the Guardians.
There was one, this is the only quibble. One quibble I have with,
here it
with
comes.
The story, and it's not a big
Buckle
deal, but
up.
They do make a big point several times throughout the movie that the Guardians don't kill.
We'll kill anyone who gets in our way.
No, not kill anyone.
Kill a few people.
Kill no people.
Kill one guy, one stupid guy who no one loves.
Now you're just making it sad.
They say that several times, and then but apparently fuck the guy that they jump out of the ship with that Quill uses as a brake pad when they like why is it okay to kill him? I don't understand it, because they didn't even kill the higher evolutionary himself. Gets a pass at the very end. Although he probably blows up at the ship.
I'm not sure how hardcore they are with that tenet. Because one thing, I do remember in the first movie, the whole thing is Peter's trying to constantly talk Rocket down, because he's literally the guy going, I'm going to murder you in the face.
Yeah.
And he's got the big gun. I just think that they are often in war type situations where it's like they are the bad guys, or they're up against the baddest of the bad guys. So I'm pretty sure they lay waste to plenty of people.
Sure. Oh yeah. But that was just one moment. It was like, it was calculated. It's like,
you're
going to kill us both. It's like, no, not both of us. Like I'm planning to kill you.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
I did no remorse. No. Sorry, buddy. So that was a little weird to me. It seemed just slightly out of character for Quill.
I remember that beat. It didn't really get me there simply because it's a them or us kind of thing. I was ready for him to take out Nathan Fillion. I love Nathan Fillion. I love that these people that we know show up. I didn't find that Jennifer Holland, his wife, was distracting. It wasn't like, oh God, here we go. It's his wife. Yeah. She just played a character. Yeah. She did it okay. She played with a little floating ball that she talked into. Great. Mm-hmm. Whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't sit there going, oh, camera just zooming in on Jennifer Holland. So his brother, always welcome, Kraglin.
He's great. I love Sean Gunn.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
And
he's
like
got
I said,
the same kind of heart. James puts the heart that James puts into the movie. His brother just
also
embodies it.
It's true. And all the characters, all the side characters have had arcs. Like he was always possibly next to Yondu, as far as the Ravagers are concerned, probably the most sensitive and probably the most like, well, I don't think we really need to kill anybody, but still he comes across as a pirate, and then he just slowly kind of becomes a nicer guy. So he's a full hero by the end. Mm-hmm. And you're like, that's just good. Mm-hmm. Mantis, I love that character, even though again in the comics she's much more serious. She becomes the Celestial Madonna. She is a hugely important cosmic character, and here she's adorable and goofy. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Nebula's not so nice, but they keep her being not so nice until she is nice.
Yeah. You actually see her smile in this.
Her turn. Her turn. Yeah, it was the same in the Christmas special where they along the way, you watch all these together, and that would be a marathon, 1, 2, Christmas special, and 3. You see these people. Well, you'd also have to kind of throw an in-game because she learned a lot from almost dying with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Nebula's had this great journey as well. So I know that getting in that makeup must be awful, but Drax being the dad of all those kids and speaking their language and doing stupid little dances for them. I also love the whole thing. He goes, dancing is stupid. Like early in the movie, and by the end of the movie, he's like doing bunny hops with kids. And so I loved it. I loved it. But not enough Captain America. I know that he's not part of the Guardians, but I always want to see more Captain America. I don't care if it's Steve or Sam. I just need some more Cap.
Yeah. One thing I really liked, and it doesn't surprise me that James handled it this way. I'm just very glad that he did. The character of Gamora, who is a different Gamora. She's a new Gamora from the one we had before.
Yeah.
They make it quite clear repeatedly throughout the film that, no, Gamora died. The Gamora that you knew died. She's still dead. This is a different version of her that never went through all those things some of the things. She went through a lot of the same stuff that character did. It's just that at a certain point in history, their paths diverged.
Yeah.
And the cheesy Hollywood thing would have been for them
to
re-fall in love with each other.
Yeah.
By the end of it. But they don't go there. You can see that Quill, he wants to go there so bad, he keeps trying to steer him in that direction. She's like, I don't know, dude, just, hey, I'm not the same person, just take it easy. But naturally, you see, obviously Quill naturally wants to have these conversations with her, and he does. Naturally, also, they still have chemistry. Because, of course they do.
Yeah.
And she acknowledges that. She's forced. She has to because it's just there. She acknowledges it, but it's still not going to be the same.
Well, they don't have the same experience base. Yeah. If they ever get together in the future, it will be a different thing. Mm-hmm. Because the draw is there. And that was well played. And it was, again, very moving. The whole thing of, I bet we were fun. It's like, man, you wouldn't even believe it. How fun we were.
It was also kind of realistic just from the standpoint if you think of a breakup and you become, you actually go into the friend zone with somebody, you willingly become friends with somebody after you've broken up and realize it's not the same. You know, we are different people now.
Yeah. And it was, it's that mild heartbreak at the same time. They're both going to be fine. They're both going to be fine.
Yeah.
In the comics, he hooked up with Kitty Pryde. I wasn't very big a fan of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. The recent Star-Lord, as in since the MCU, they have been writing him like the movie Star-Lord. So he's charming and goofy kind of. And Kitty Pryde has grown up. Obviously, she's not a teenager anymore because they do address the change of time over decades of comics. So yeah, some interstellar mission, the Guardians and the X-Men team up, and then they kind of like, oh, I like you. So they dated for a bit.
Okay.
Good on you, Peter Quill. But you know, you also got in this movie, because he's not letting anything dangle, if you know what I mean. They bring in Starhawk again, who is Sylvester Stallone's character.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh my God, I just can't believe we got Starhawk, we've got Adam Warlock, we've got all these dudes. I'm like, yeah, come on with that.
Who was? I was going to ask you this. There was a wizard character or a sorcerer character who was with the Ravagers. It's like a serpentine character. And
right. I'm not sure.
He's opening sling ring portals.
Oh,
left and right when they first show up.
I think that may just be teleportation and not magic based. But I could be wrong.
I think it seemed like they were
actually using a sling ring.
It looks exactly like Doctor Strange's powers.
I don't know if
he's
that's
putting up the same little symbols and stuff that Doctor Strange does.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's a canon character.
If he is, I don't know him. Yeah. The only other one I recognize is because they did this at the end of 2, or not the end, but you do see when they show up for Yondu's funeral, you see with Starhawk, you see other characters who were the classic Guardians of the Galaxy, which is weird. Because the one thing you don't know is that that a lot of the audience doesn't know is the Guardians are not contemporary characters. They're supposed to be in like the year 3000, whatever. They're future Marvel characters. And Yondu, much more spiritual, much more, his people are like the Native American race type folks. And again, very serious, not a, what are you doing there, boy? And they're not Ravagers. That's something James Gunn came up with. Okay. And there's a guy who grew up on like a colony on Pluto or something, who's this massively wide character because of the difference in gravity and so forth. It makes your body like that. And that's who they had Ving Rhames playing at the cameo at the end of like they digitally made him really wide. I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. And the crystalline guy that is in 3, that is with Starhawk, he's another member of the classic Guardians. He looks like he's made of diamond.
Okay. Dope. Was it like a floating
I don't know the floating head
robot
guy.
head. Yeah.
No, I don't need.
Love that.
I miss you guys so much.
They probably all are canonical, and I'm just like, I don't know them, and I'm embarrassed. But I'm still like digging that. And Star-Lord was never a member of the Guardians. When they came up with this idea of a present day Guardians, they were picking characters that were cosmic but weren't in the classic team. So maybe they inspire the Guardians of the future, but they put Star-Lord in there and Rocket Raccoon and Groot. You know Alex Ross, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Personally. Will you introduce me? Alex Ross, amazing comic book artist who does very photorealistic paintings. He did a painting of this version of Guardians, the MCU version, but painted the way they looked in the comics, which is not anything like they look in the movies. So Star-Lord in his weird helmet and superhero outfit, Rocket the way he looked in the thing, Groot, who was this big monster tree-looking dude, Gamora, and I was just like, that's awesome. Because it's like, this is what Drax, totally different. This is what they looked like in the comics, but it's the team that you think of in the movies. I love it. This is a good thing.
Oh, this reminds me of another thing I really loved.
Yeah.
The touch, because they have this running thing where the new Gamora doesn't understand Groot.
Yes.
And because she just hears what the audience hears is I am Groot. And she's like, it's like this running gag, like, you guys, you're just making up stuff that he's saying, right? Like, come on, this can't be a thing. And then finally at the one of the last, one of the denouement of the movie where they're wrapping things up, she just suddenly understands him.
Yeah.
And you see her reacting like, oh shit, I understood you that time. She didn't say it. You can see it in her face, which I love that touch too.
It's a brilliant James Gunn thing because the audience is thrown, but then we see her expression and we realize that she has been made part of the family, so she understands him, and so are we. And that's very meta. It's like now we actually understand Groot.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm wondering, I don't know if this is canon to the way Groot is in the comics. I don't know the source material, but it's implied that Groot, maybe his language is like somewhat telepathic, that you spend more time around him, you start to understand what he's saying over time. So Gamora picks it up like it's like you're absorbing it over time, and it suddenly seeps in. So she understands it, and she's kind of stunned by it. And then a couple scenes later, we understand him because he says, "Love you guys."
Yeah,
which is the second time we've heard him say anything other than
the
original Groot said, "We are Groot." This was completely off the menu of a Groot saying. I really think that's what James was intending. Is like, now you've spent enough time with him. Now you understand what he's saying.
Yeah,
so,
and now Vin Diesel has to say more than 3 words.
Yeah. I think that was one of James's parting gifts to the.
Oh yeah, definitely
to his people as he's moving on.
Speaking of that run in the comics where the Guardians and X-Men crossed over, Jean Grey, like the most powerful telepath in, second to Professor X. The cover of one of those comics was great. It's Jean Grey just looking up at Groot, and Groot's looking down at her. And his word balloon is, I am Groot. But the entire back of behind them is what he's actually saying, because she's obviously able to understand it.
Oh, yeah.
And the entire cover is just like, well, I find it interesting that it just goes on and on and on and on and on. But his word balloon is just, I am Groot. And she's sitting there going like, got it. Yeah. It's just this huge monologue. Loved it.
That's great.
But no, that was very touching. I want to say one thing about how brilliant he is also, Mr. Gunn. I'm sorry, this is a love letter to you. You deserve it, though. Great job. But he is brutally smart when it comes to advertising, when it comes to promoting and getting you. Trailers have always been good. The trailers have always been good. And I'm sure he oversees those and goes, yeah, exactly what I want. But this thing with this movie where they're like, time for one last ride. And then you see all these shots of like, you see them carrying Peter Quill's body, and you see there are all these dramatic shots, including like Rocket going down or being crushed and all this stuff. Then you watch the movie and you go, holy shit, those shots are taken completely out of context from the movie.
Yeah.
And in fact, within the first 5 minutes, we see the carrying of Peter Quill because he's drunk.
He's just drunk. Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant because he's hyped it up as the press was buying it. Everyone's like going, who's going to die? Who's going to die?
Exactly.
And then no one does.
Yeah. And I wanted to say that too, that I was on a little bit of pins and needles on this towards the end, especially that scene where Quill risks his life to save the Zune. I thought, okay, because this happened to him in the first movie where he was out in space, without a respirator,
crystallizing and inflating.
And so there have been things said about the film, like, this is a sort of a goodbye, and we're moving on, and there will be goodbyes will be said, and I was like, oh,
I know. And I'm like, that's just mean.
Do people die in the film, James? He goes, sure. Yes. Of course people die. It's like, but he didn't say, in no way did he indicate who actually dies.
Right.
But in the end, it's just like at the end of The Mandalorian season 3, everybody survives. Everybody's okay. And all the characters are still there for future storytellers
You could be a little mad that you've been manipulated, but most people are just going to be like, oh, you bastard. What a mean trick you played on us.
Because that scene where he is, saving the Zune and floating in space, and you're like, oh fuck. And I'm thinking, okay, well, obviously Adam Warlock's going to save him because that's the only guy there who can do it.
I was thinking the same thing.
Just long enough,
Plus, Adam Warlock needed a redemption moment. I mean, again, that's just good structure.
they make you wait long enough that I was starting to think, oh shit, is Adam just too stupid to save him? Or is he wounded? Is he not healthy enough to jump out there right now? Or is he depowered, and oh fuck. And then all of a sudden there he is, his hand comes in, it's like, oh, okay.
I know. By the way, for the uninitiated, Adam Warlock, the only problem with them bringing him into Guardians late, as in his character doesn't even kick in until a lot of the Thanos storyline's already over. He actually had the Soul Infinity Stone.
I heard that, yeah.
So whatever he's got here as a power source in the movie, it's not an Infinity Stone. So part of me is like going, that should be the Soul Stone. And then again, people ask me to leave the theater.
Well, they
Ladies and
could.
gentlemen, that should be the Soul Stone right there.
They could do some weird timey-wimey stuff with Loki, since
I love me some timey-wimey.
we could have a scene in Loki season 2 of him bringing the Soul Stone to the what's the name of the race of people that he's from?
The Titans, they're on the moon of Titan. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
The
Adam Warlock.
Sovereign.
The Sovereign, yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's a James Gunn kind of retcon where the High Evolutionary created the Sovereign. I was like, that's not where Adam Warlock came from.
Oh, and what was
I will accept it, though.
The origin of Rocket was a bit different too, wasn't it? But
Not
there is
really.
a connection to the. Really? Okay.
When in that original miniseries, he doesn't have an origin. It's like they've just always been around, that there are talking intelligent animals out in space having this adventure. I think it was later that they're like, no, he's actually an Earth raccoon that got operated on. High Evolutionary was not the guy who did it. So that's changed.
Okay.
High Evolutionary is that kind of an asshole in the comics. And I kept looking because Counter Earth, the fact that we got Counter Earth, I'm just like, what the fuck? Because that's obviously from the comics. High Evolutionary did that. He's from Earth, though. In the comics, High Evolutionary is an Earthman who his intelligence grows to such a great degree for various reasons. He's like, I am kind of a god now, and I can create better species by blending all these DNA, and I can create an Earth where everything's perfect, which, of course, it turns out not.
Isn't, yeah.
And Adam Warlock has a lot to do with Counter Earth stories, because that's where I think he shows up on Counter Earth originally. He doesn't make it to our Earth till later. Anyway, so all that stuff, I'm looking for Easter eggs. Like when we go there, I'm like, he famously High Evolutionary created a cow woman named Bova, who was the nursemaid to young Wanda and Pietro. Like, they grew up on Wundagore Mountain. You know, the big mountain in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That is where Wanda and Pietro grew up
in the comics, yeah.
And yeah, High Evolutionary was in charge of Wundagore Mountain, had all of his animal people as the Knights of Wundagore. And so it's animals in knight armor, animal men, and Bova took care of Wanda and Pietro. So every now and then, like, we go to Counter Earth, I'm like, show me Bova. Where's Bova?
I'm even more convinced as time goes by. I'm so convinced that he's going to do Captain Carrot.
He might.
He has to, because this is so up his alley. And
you know what? I do think it'll end up being similar to Creature Commandos. I bet that ends up being like a animated series. I don't think we're going to get a big screen.
Well,
I know.
But he did it, and this doesn't necessarily indicate anything, but he did share on Easter. He put up a picture of Captain Carrot on his Instagram story.
I didn't see that. Well, he loves to drop his hints.
Yeah.
He's a hint dropper.
He's a hint dropper.
I will say everything that we're excited about, we should take a deep breath because the writer's strike, which I fully support. God bless. Man, that's ridiculous. They got to share some of that grotesque money, people, with the people who make the content. But so a lot of this stuff is going to be put on hold.
Yeah.
Was I very sad to hear that Daredevil, the new Daredevil series, is on hold? Yeah, man. Because I think Echo is finished, or they're very close to finishing it. So it'll probably debut when it's supposed to. Yeah,
unfortunately, Andor was already shooting, but now the writers have had to leave the set. So, including Tony Gilroy, unfortunately. So that's, from what I've heard, because
I
technically
love seeing all the
he wrote
posts of like the actors in these shows going out to the picket lines and just like joining them and bringing them food and stuff. I love
I
that where
haven't
it's
seen
like,
that.
oh no, it's just lots of. I'm not saying Andor specifically, but you see plenty of like, yep, sorry, we were going to be doing our show. It's not happening right now until they work stuff out. So you see some of the directors and actors of different shows going out to the picket lines and showing their support.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I hope they wrap this up.
Yeah, me too.
Sooner than later.
Because I got to have my programs.
Yeah, we need our nerdy shit.
We need our programs and our films.
And I don't want these these series to get compromised just because those guys aren't there. We need them writers.
Yeah. Though, if they offered me a job, would I be a scab? Yes. Because I've been trying to get into the industry for so long.
Yeah.
Call me.
So I asked you if you'd seen The Man from Earth. Had you ever even heard of that?
No, I'd never even heard of it.
How
did you stumble on it?
That's what I've been racking my brain trying to remember how I initially learned about it. And I think I must have read about it on a blog somewhere because this was years ago, like probably around the time, probably the year it came out or the year afterwards. I think I actually got it off of Netflix back when I still was doing their DVD plan.
Oh yeah, really?
But it's a sort of a cult classic now. It was it's really, really well done script that was written by Jerome Bixby, who was a very old school science fiction writer who had written for Twilight Zone, and he wrote some of the most legendary episodes of Star Trek, the original series, including Mirror Mirror, and Requiem for Methuselah, which is where this old man turns out to be that he's immortal, and he was Leonardo da Vinci.
No, you don't. You screwed up the plot. The plot of it is this old man, he played knick-knack on my thumb with a knick-knack paddywhack, give the dog a bone.
I was thinking about the other day because I was watching the Dune trailer, Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah.
Kwisatz Haderach, give a dog a bone? No? Okay. Sorry. Completely off track now.
Sorry. Yes, it was written by this amazing old school sci-fi guy.
So, and this was a story which he toured around with some elements of this on the episode of Requiem for Methuselah. There's an immortal man who lives on some distant planet somewhere, I guess, who reveals that throughout history, he was a lot of famous people and also a lot of just not famous people, but he was Leonardo da Vinci, he was Brahms, he was Methuselah, he was Merlin in the legend of Arthur.
So crazy.
And so Jerome Bixby had an idea to expand on that idea, and he was working on the story in his head for decades, and he finally finished the script on his deathbed with his son taking down dictation for him in his final days. And then after he died, his son Emerson, I think his name is, and I'm trying to remember that Robert Schenkman, I think, was the director that he paired up with, and the two of them kind of fleshed out the screenplay and then went off to try to get it made. And they actually got a lot of interest at first, but all the Hollywood people wanted to warp it into some kind of distorted, Hollywood bullshit kind of thing. And so they stuck to their guns. And
what if he has a hot cop for a partner? Like she's really hot.
This is the stupidest shit you can imagine. And so they decided to do it as just a really low budget feature. And because the writing was so good, and probably because it was a Star Trek writer, they got some Trek actors in the piece. There's John Billingsley, who played Dr. Phlox on Enterprise.
Yeah.
He's great in it. He plays a biologist. And there's Tony Todd, who I don't know the characters he was in. I just remember, I know I've seen the whole cast are character actors that you recognize. There's nobody in that you wouldn't recognize. Like, I know that person. I can't remember what I've seen them in, but I know that. And the main guy, the main character, John Oldman, is played by David Lee Smith, who probably most people know him from CSI Miami. He was on that for like the entire run of the series or something. He
solved a lot of crimes.
Yeah. But I came to mind recently because of another movie I'm going to recommend that you watch called Artifice Girl, which just came out. Another low budget indie film.
These things I haven't heard of this.
Chris Duckman, one of my favorite YouTube reviewers. I know about it because he reviewed it, and it's you have to rent it. It's not on streaming services yet. But it is really well worth watching. He just mentions that this film is really just a series of conversations. There's no action in it. It's just people sitting in a room talking, but it's brilliant. You have to watch it. And that immediately made me think of Man from Earth, because that's what The Man from Earth is. It's one long conversation between a group of college professors with one person who, well, only spoiler I'm going to offer, one person who reveals in the course of the conversation that he is immortal, and he's lived for 14,000 years. And so the conversation is the people like trying to get their brain around, like, is he fucking with us? Like, and then trying to like throw him off and try to see if he's telling the truth or not. And they get more and more intrigued as they go along. It's brilliantly written. It's so good.
Wow.
So unfortunately,
what's the log line for Artifice Girl? What's it about?
Artifice Girl is an AI. It's a story about artificial intelligence, and it's
timely, very timely.
Yeah, and it's an AI that was developed by somebody to catch pedophiles, and she poses as a young girl.
Yeah.
To lure pedophiles, so they can be. So the main character in this film, well, the main character I guess is the AI.
Yeah.
Named Cherry, but her creator, whose name is, I can't remember his name now, but he created her because he was the victim of pedophilia when he was a kid and was abducted, and he had been secretly giving leads to the FBI and not telling them how he was doing it. And so the first scene is them getting, they're interrogating him, trying to find out who is this girl who's been working with you. She's not a real girl.
This is very telling as to, I can see why these, and they both are very intriguing, and I'll check them out. But the thing that I love is this is very you find and are drawn to. No, I mean, it's a good way. You like sci-fi that has a real concept behind it, that is heavier, that is smarter. You like some pew pew as well, I know, but these concepts are great. These are great sci-fi concepts.
They're big question. They're big question films.
Yeah.
Like 2001: Space Odyssey and stuff like that. I just love writers and filmmakers who just go straight for these big questions. They don't shy away from them.
Right.
That's the greatest thing about both of these films. But
did you like Contact when it came out?
Loved it. Loved it. We got a little too cheesy.
Yeah,
because I love Zemeckis is great. He's a fantastic director.
But he'll go for the.
He went a little.
He'll go for the Parmesan.
Yeah. But it was I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And AI. I mean, sorry, AI. That's another story.
AI is a whole other thing.
Artifice Girl does have a father-daughter dynamic in it. It's not just about artificial intelligence. It's also about father-daughter relationships or parent-child relationships in general.
Yeah.
And it's so well done. And we've got the only name actor in it that I recognize is Lawrence Henriksen, I think. The guy who played
you mean
Bishop.
Lance Henriksen?
Lance Henriksen, thank you.
Yeah.
He played Bishop in Aliens. Love that actor. So he plays the older version of the creator of the AI in one of the later scenes, and he's fantastic.
Of course. Lance Henriksen always delivers. Guy has always looked skeletal since he was a young man, but he's so intense. Always love him.
Yeah, but that really is one of the main reasons I love Man from Earth so much, is that it is all about a big question, and they go straight for it, and they dig into it the entire movie. And
nice.
It's so great. So great.
All right. Well, this has been Chad's movie picks, and they both sound really good.
So one more thing I'll say about it too. Man from Earth you can watch on YouTube. The entire movie is on YouTube. There's also a sequel. Now I will offer this with a really heavy caveat. Do not watch the sequel until you've watched the original, and you may not want to watch the sequel at all because they completely go off. They try to turn it. It was clear that the creators of the film were flipped out that the movie was such a big cult success, and they were trying to figure out some way to spin it into a franchise, and you just can't do that with a movie like that. So they tried to his credit, David Lee Smith, who reprises his role in the second one. That's the only good thing about the sequel is David Lee Smith's
he's still bringing it.
He's fantastic in it, but they try to turn it into some weird X-Files like thriller kind of thing.
They give him a hot cop partner.
And William Catt comes back to reprise his role. He plays, I can't remember what kind of professor he is in the original. I think he's a sociologist. can't remember, but he's William Catt, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that he's in this. And
I saw
and he's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm glad he gets work. I'm always glad to see William Catt around.
Yeah. But yeah, don't watch the sequel if you can avoid it. Go in just knowing that it's extremely flawed.
There are things where, even if it's the same creators involved, you get to a part 2 and you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Because the one I always go to is Highlander is not thinking science fiction fantasy. But it's really great. Highlander is so much fun as a cult movie of its time and great concept. Highlander 2 is the same people. You would think it wasn't, but it's the same people involved, and you're like, what were you fucking thinking? Highlander 2, The Quickening is batshit insane, shot for $50, and I think it's a similar thing where they were surprised probably that Highlander itself did as well as it did, and of course it was a huge rental, so it did well in the theaters, but then as a rental it just kept growing in reputation, and it's like, let's go back and let's pay the money to get Sean Connery to do another 5 minutes of screen time and flashbacks, and now we're on another planet.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on with you, Highlander, is what I said.
I think it's similar to what the mistakes that the Man from Earth people made, is that they completely, everything that made the first one successful, they stray from. The first one was just one conversation in a room. That was it. It was like, my dinner with Andre with an ensemble cast, essentially. And so in the sequel, they completely go off in this other tangent, and it's not about conversations; it's about a series of events and
at that point, it is showing its desire to, as you said, let's try and spin this into plot-driven stories instead of thought.
Yeah.
And that's a mistake.
Yeah. I thought for sure it had to do with the fact that part of the problem, obviously, that the original author was dead.
Yeah.
But it was his son. The same people who made the first one made the second one. So it was, guys,
well, it is a mistake just to repeat what you did in the first movie, but you should always expand on what you did in the first movie. It should feel of a piece and not like, I have no idea what they're doing anymore.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Who is that? Why am I watching?
I've thought about what could they have done differently. I will say, I can't reveal what happened.
Don't reveal
without spoiling the first one. So I'm not going to say it. But
I would say with that kind of a concept, and this is without me having watched it yet. But if you were going to do a sequel, I mean, wouldn't you kind of want to? Well, you'd need a budget, but wouldn't you want to sort of open it up to vignettes of the incredible lifespan, and therefore
that's what I thought they would do. Yeah.
But again, that's all like, oh, you want us to do 85 period pieces in one movie? Yeah. Here's your powdered wig. Here's this. It'd be an endless. Yeah, that would be too expensive.
Well, we've kind of gotten it in Sandman. Trying to think of the name of that issue, that story. Hob. Yeah.
Hob, the character of Hob. One of my favorite side characters in the entire series, of course.
Yeah.
And that storyline of them just meeting up every 100 years, just so great.
Yeah, and that's somebody you could totally. I could totally see Neil Gaiman taking that character and spinning him off into a series, because he would know how to do it well.
Oh, of course. Even though
he kind of did.
Technically, with
Hob, we do see him a couple times.
Unlike the character you're talking about in this movie, The Man from Earth, I think he lives in an eternity of a normal existence. In other words, he's not standing out. He's not creating anything, and he's just existing, which could be great. Slice of life across centuries could be interesting in its own way. And of course, the whole thing that ties in with Highlander as well, seeing the loss of loves, where it's like, oh, I never got old, and everyone I love gets old and dies on me. It's, that's a big emotional thing you could work with. Mm-hmm. I am not pitching a Hobbs series. That's you pitching that.
I just want more of that. I love that episode so much.
It was so
well realized. Yeah.
And of course the whole thing about until you admit I'm your friend.
Yeah.
It's like, there's more to it than you just checking in on me. It's like, we're buddies. And he's like, Yeah, okay, maybe.
Okay.
I'm dreaming. I'm grumpy. I'm always
Yeah.
kind of grumpy. Oh, anyway.
There was one line from the one line. There were some lines of dialogue from the comic that were kept verbatim. That was one from that episode. It was from a different story, but it was in the same episode where Death says, "Oh, this isn't my boyfriend. He's my brother, and he's an idiot."
Yeah.
That was directly taken from the comics.
This is my brother, and he's an idiot. I mean, I can't even. There are people like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore whose talent is so great that it's almost unfair. And I just sit there going like, oh, that's just a perfect Neil Gaiman way of like the whole concept of Death being this adorable, life-affirming sprite, you know, who's a wonderful presence and is not afraid to look, dream, destruction, despair, all of her siblings in the eye and mock them. It's like, I love that. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a thing where, you know, anytime I've reread the series so many times, it's like it's just sitting right over there in the big fancy leather hardbound volumes, which are kind of heavy to sit in the lap. But I'll reread Sandman again, and I can't wait for season 2. But I guess we will.
I guess we have to wait. Yeah.
Man, what are we going to talk about when everything grinds to a halt?
We can go back into the past.
Oh, exactly. Yep. We can bring up more By Beast. Oh, Brazil. Yeah.
Do you still have yours? This?
Oh yeah. Only I did upgrade to the Blu-ray.
I think I do need to buy.
In fact, I sold my my DVD box.
Oh. Okay.
It's exact same material. The Criterion Brazil Blu-ray is the exact same material, but slightly upscaled.
My old DVD player is broken. In fact, there's something stuck in it right now. But I saw that you can get a pretty cheap Blu-ray / DVD player now. Yeah. So I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna rewatch this, and we should talk about
Blu-ray is not the highfalutin thing it was. And actually, what I did was before I got the PS5, which is what I watch my Blu-rays on now because it plays Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. I went and bought a Blu-ray drive for my PC, and it's still in there. So I mean, that's those. Cool. You know, I think that might have been $90 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not.
Yeah.
And the only problem is once you get Blu-ray and you're like, is there a big difference? And you're like, yeah, it is kind of big. The 4K thing, I'm not there yet either. I don't have a 4K player. My brother does, of course. He's like going, oh my God, 4K, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm okay with my Blu-rays. Every time they put out a new thing, it's like, do I have to replace all the ones I have? What should we talk about next week? Other than By Beast, because I know you're going to do a deep dive and you're going to be obsessed. You're like going, next week we're only talking about By Beast. And I'm going to be, Chad, we can't do an hour plus on By Beast.
Well, I'm totally down for, we could dive back. I mean, I'm thinking Brazil would be great.
Brazil would be awesome to talk about.
We could talk about
the Ruddles. I don't own the Ruddles anymore. I did have it.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit.
What'd you think of the sequel? The one they did years later, their take on Anthology.
Oh, I love the music. Yeah.
Yeah, the music was good.
Neil Innes was a genius. I love that guy.
R.I.P.
Yeah. So there's a lot to be said about that man. I don't know. It would be kind of cool to there's a lot of things we could kind of go down memory lane with some of these series.
And we have Indy coming up. We got Indy 5. We have Into the Spider-Verse. Is that the two? Those are the two big ones I'm very excited about.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of retrospective stuff we could do. So we'll think about it.
We'll think about it.
What do you want us to talk about? People?
Oh, good. Oh, look at the call to action.
Remember those people out there who are watching and like sending you money and stuff.
I know. If any of you would like to join Kate in sending me money, I will be posting my Venmo on this. We don't expect that. And actually, I got to be honest, Chad, I never expect anyone to listen to these. Because that's the joy of the show. We just blather. And if people enjoy the blather, great. I'm very happy. Yeah. For me, it's clearly about I'm talking to my buddy Chad, who I haven't seen in a million years. We haven't been in the same room in
at least 20 years.
Yeah, it's been at least 20 years.
Yeah.
Jesus, you haven't even seen the horrible growth on my knee. I made that up. But I like you going, yes,
Something to look
please.
forward to.
Okay, well, here goes the cam. No, I'm not going to be showing you horrible. But yeah, tune in next week for more of this.
Yes.
And tell us what you'd like us to
God
talk
bless
about
you.
between now and then. Maybe we will do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, guys, no more Bye Beast.
Okay.
Bye Beast.
Peace.
Bye Beast.